Alright, welcome to Tactical. Today's episode is going to be a part vlog, which is basically like a clothing haul for nerds. I'm going to go over to my bench, I'm going to show you a few things that I bought, explain my reasoning behind buying them, and hopefully teach you a thing or two about doing the same as I go along. The real problem with being this kind of YouTuber is that the information I have to dispense is very specific, very situational, and difficult to encapsulate in a single video or even a single series of videos. So I'm just going to kind of have to pepper it throughout my videos and hope that you absorb some of it. If you'd like more information on a given topic and you don't think I'm quite being informative enough about a given subject, please let me know in the comments. I think what I'm going to do eventually is go back through a lot of my videos, take a look at the comments, and make a Q&A video out of it. And in the future, I will solicit your questions very specifically in the comments of those videos so that hopefully I can address this stuff better. So anyway, I'm going to throw it over to Workbench Jeff, and he's going to take it from there.
All right, here we are over at my workbench, and then the first item up for showcasing is this combo here. We've got a Q9300 on a P5B motherboard from Asus with 8 gigs of RAM. Paid 50 bucks for all of this here. Not the graphics card. The graphics card is actually my test card that I use for boards that don't have video outs, which, by the way, lesson number 1 is something you should always check when buying a board. Make sure that if it doesn't have onboard video, you have some way to test it. So always keep one of these shitty little cards handy. You may recall from my last build vlog, number 3, where I made a $155 system out of a very similarly spec'd core combo, that I paid $60 for that set. And that one ended up going in a build. This one will probably not. Now the difference between that one and this one is that the P5K premium motherboard, which is in that system, has a lot of VRM cooling, and this has absolutely none. Take a look around there. You only see 3 chokes in there, so it's a 3-phase power delivery system. This board is not meant for overclocking, is the lesson to be learned here. So learn the basic layout configuration of modern motherboards. Learn what you should be looking for in terms of motherboard capability and features, and definitely VRM cooling is a good indication that the board is at least designed with some degree of overclocking in mind. This, because the CPU is, first of all, it's worse than the last one. It's not a Q9550, it's a Q9300. And because the board is incapable of overclocking, this will probably go into a basic desktop system that I will donate to a charity, in particular one that I work for on a fairly regular basis, and I do their IT stuff. Still a perfectly good deal. I would gladly pay 50 bucks for all of it again. If I were in the business of profiteering, I could easily flip this for 100 bucks. Here we have an MSI H81M P33 with an i5 4460 in it. Now, I paid 200 bucks for this combo. IO shield is included. By the way, lesson number 3 for the day. Always make sure the IO shield is included with motherboards you buy if you intend on reselling it and aren't using it for yourself. If you have clients that you're putting together custom builds for, they're going to want the IO shield. Believe it or not, these things cost like 30 bucks to replace if you're going to buy them on eBay. There's a website called ioshield.de that does that, and it's pricey. So 200 bucks for this, which is a pretty good deal for a Haswell i5 4460, and if you assume like 50 bucks for the motherboard and 150 for the CPU, that's still a good deal. Over here, we got ourselves an i5 3470 that I also picked up recently. I got this for 100 bucks. Now what's the performance difference between an i5 4460 and an i5 3470? It's like 4 or 5%, and you're saving 1/3 the price of this by buying this. And the motherboards are going to be about the same. I don't have a board for this yet, but $50 for this H81 board, I assure you, you can get an H61 board for roughly the same price. Motherboards actually sort of bottom out around 40-50 bucks. They don't go much cheaper than that if they have relevant CPUs that they can house. But the CPU in this situation is where you can save the most money. I also got an i5 3350P that is not pictured here. The only reason the P is on the back end of that, as far as I can tell, is because it doesn't have integrated graphics. And I got that one for 80, so that gives you a better idea of how much money you can save by just going back a few generations, sacrificing like a sliver of performance and getting something like this over this. For the record, I will still be able to put this in a client build. I will still be able to sell it at a significant markup and further fund my ventures. And if pickings are slim in your town, you buy what you can buy. and this would make a very good option, but I'm just saying that if you have the option to buy this over this, you probably won't take this. Okay, moving on. Oh yeah, 660 Ti. It's still a 1080 sweet spot card if there ever was one, still performs very well. I already peeled one of the plastic overlay stickers that was on this because the original owner of it had not. 660 Ti, paid $100 for. The lesson I wanted to convey here, this is all about education for me. Graphics card prices in Canada have been on the rise on both the used and new markets because the exchange rate has been bad. When the exchange rate in your given country begins to fall in relation to the US dollar, where things are largely manufactured and or distributed, prices of course will go up. And this affects the used market because one, it makes people less willing to upgrade to something new and put their old card up for sale. Number two, it makes competition for older cards much fiercer because people are unwilling to buy new. So if they are looking for an upgrade, they're going to turn to Kijiji, they're going to see a diminished supply, and they're going to be willing to pay a little bit more to get what they want. I used to pay 80 or 90 bucks for these, I guess about 6 to 9 months ago. Now I'm having to fork over 100. But also, be aware that Pascal and Polaris are on their way. So cards all across the spectrum that those cards cover or intend to replace will be dropping in value very shortly. So if you can hold off for another 5 or 6 weeks, please do it. Moving on. We have a whole stack of SSDs here. We've got 160, 180, and 128 gigabyte capacities here. Mostly Intel, but we got some SanDisks down there. We got some 240 Intel 520 series drives here. And I've got a whole bunch of 240 gigabyte drives here. Now where do these come from? Well, you'll notice that these say refurb, because that's what they are. These are refurbished drives. These are purchased or supplied to laptop refurbishers by the manufacturer or by a company that refurbishes drives. So they're supplied to them because these are used as replacement in entire laptop builds that need to be repaired. So when they find that the SSD is the problem, they'll put one of these in there. Refurbished SSDs are about as rock solid as buying new. SSDs in general are pretty rock solid, and they very, very rarely fail. But when they do, these are the kinds of things they use. And they often end up ordering so many of them that they have a great surplus. And my contact who sells me these, it does exactly that. He basically finds alternate outlets for them to make use of these drives and get rid of them. They've all been tested and validated to be working exactly as intended. As long as they do not encounter any physical damage, I do not anticipate that they will fail. These ones here are from the same guy, but they're sort of on the opposite end of that whole process. Rather than being refurbs that are used as replacements in laptops that need new drives, these are drives that were removed from laptops that were broken for another reason. And the SSD was one of the components that was perfectly fine. These are all used. They have varying degrees of life rights on them, I guess. I've marked a few of them to give me, there we go, this one here. This has 5.5 terabytes of writes to it, so it's got another 70 left before it goes kaput. The nice thing about SSDs is that they have a very measurable and very predictable lifespan. And it is equated directly to the amount of writes that they have taken in their life, which is why I use the term life write cycle or life write span to denote how long these drives should be good for. What did I pay for these? Well, for the 240 gigabyte drives pictured here, 45 bucks Canadian, which is an absolute steal. And for these, 25 or 30, depending on the capacity. The larger ones, the 180 drives, were 30 bucks, and the smaller ones were 25. And you may be asking yourself, so did you have to buy them on bulk like this? Do I have to be a fucking PC builder hobbyist to get this kind of a deal? Well, no. Because this guy, when I first met him, he was listing these for that price at asking on a per unit basis. You didn't need to buy in bulk. You could just get one if that's all you wanted, and he was happy to sell it. But when he found me, he was like, "Well, hey, if you're just willing to come to my place and buy them all, I'm going to sell them all to you. I'll keep them for you." So I didn't even haggle on price. These are at such a good price point that I don't have to worry. He's really good about replacing drives that are not good. I've only had one out of this entire stack that I had to return to him so far. SSDs are great. They're very safe to buy used because 99% of the time they're going to be fine. And if you know where to look and who to look for, you can save a fuck ton of money. Last and certainly not least, we have this box. I got a box. Now, it originally had a power supply in it, and I discarded the power supply because the power supply was a total piece of fucking ass. If you've never heard of Mustiff before, I'm not surprised, because Mustiff is a shit company, and if you ever put any of their shit in your shit, that shit will light on fire so fast you're going to need a fucking shit fire hose to put it out. It says it's a 550 watt power supply. I'm assuming the dual means that it's dual 12 volt rail. But how do I know it's bad? Well, first of all, I could tear it open. I threw it out already. I tossed it in the fucking garbage because I certainly was not going to take a chance on it. But I could tear it open, and I could show you that exactly why it's not really a 550 watt power supply. I could hook it up to a power supply tester and show you that when it hits 275 watts, it starts to burn out. I could show you that all sorts of protections and fail-safes, like overcurrent protection, undercurrent protection, blah, 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 are all absent from this power supply. I could give you a lot of technical reasons why you shouldn't buy it, but really, we don't need to do that. All you need to look for is if you're buying a power supply and you happen to have the original box, look at shit like this. Mustiff PSU is built with a solid quality you have come to expect from Mustiff, name at an unbeatable price. Mustiff PSU is high performance with efficiency and reliability. Mustiff power supply is built to satisfy full range of users and system builder. And it's got fucking kissy faces all over the side of it. This is like couples and moms and dads and stuff. Like, oh, I feel so good about our relationship because we have this Mustiff power supply, dear. Yes, I love Mustiff. They're so system builder efficient and organized and of great English. Yeah, this is exactly why you don't buy this shit. If you need to decal kissing couples on your fucking power supply box, you're probably not a quality unit. But anyway, I'm going to throw it back over to Desk Jeff. Once he goes and sits down, he's going to record the outro, and I'll be back in a moment. So there you have it, another quality episode of Technical brought to you by Mustiff. My next video is probably going to be a video about safety tips and tricks, because I feel an obligation to do that kind of a video, being that I'm sending you out to the world and asking you to buy used shit from people you never met in order to prevent you from getting raped and mugged and murdered and worse. It's also going to cover a lot of tips that you can employ to keep your money safe, like ways that you can mitigate potential loss. And again, submit your questions to me in any forum on any of my videos, and I will summate them into a Q&A video at some point and have a little series like that going on. Subscribe to me. Follow me on Twitter @OFA, and I'll see you in the next one.